everybody, welcome back to Devils United. We're back again with another preview. This time Manchester United is taking on Tottenham Hotspur, and we've got Reece. Reece, how you doing?
I'm sorry, I'm moving all over the place. I'm sorry, my cables are just really annoying me around me. I know it's my fault. I'm sorry. I'm very good, thank you, mates. It's good to be back on amongst yourself, smiling away. Lovely show we're going to be having. Yeah, Tottenham. This is definitely going to be a fun one because, well, we're both in a different contrast of form. Raised some very interesting questions, I think, tonight. I'm looking forward to it. And first of all, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Just want to say hello to Ravi, who's in the chat as well. Thanks for coming in. So we'll touch on a little bit regarding the last game, because we obviously won against Brighton on penalties, and we did hear, of course, De Zerbi's comments that they should have got the win. They should have got to the final. What's your thoughts on the game, just to ask, because I know you don't watch along?
Personally, I do agree. Also, for anyone in the live chat, I'm ahead of you. Manchester City have actually just scored against Arsenal already. In terms of the watch along, no, I agree. I thought for about 60, 65 minutes, I think I said in my watch along, I said Brighton were actually by far the better team. I think they had more control of the possession. I think they were just more in tune with the potential. I think they really knew what they were looking for. The problem is they couldn't find it, and what they were trying to get was that goal. They were really good, to be fair. Brighton, I was really impressed by one player in particular that we're going to talk. I have a feeling we might talk about, is even though I think he should have been sent off, Mitoma. I think Mitoma was absolutely outstanding, one of the best players on the field, but I did think he should have been sent off for the challenge on David De Gea, personally. I think McAllister was fantastic as well. He was really controlling the game. Him and Caicedo, we didn't really know how to deal with them. But the minute they changed things up in the second half with the midfield, really set the tone for me. Once they put McAllister in the 10 role, even though he actually plays better in the 10 role, it actually allowed us to grow into the game and actually take more control of the ball and more possession. Up to that point, all the momentum, obviously we both use FOTMob, and when we do watch-alongs, all the momentum, if you go back and look, all the momentum for large spells, like 10 to 15 minutes at a time, was all Brighton. United's most momentum at that time was about 5-6 minutes. After that, the momentum grew. The only thing, though, was, like Brighton, we had chances, we didn't take them, and I said as well, funnily enough, in your show you did the other day, I said Man United, I said 1-1 is my prediction. Man United would win on penalties, just because I wasn't confident that we would win. I wasn't confident that we would actually do enough, so I actually said we'd win on penalties, because, to be honest, we didn't deserve to go through. I don't think we deserved it. But I'm glad it's us, because I'm not confident that Brighton would have actually ended the so-called plastic treble that would eventually match to our treble. I don't want to see that happen, so I hope it's us that can stop them from doing it.
Absolutely, and I do agree with what you're saying. I do disagree with Mitoma. I don't think he was the best player on the pitch, personally.
Who was their best player in your opinion?
Caicedo.
I thought he was outstanding. I
think he was an absolute menace in that midfield. I just think Mitoma, he wasn't able to get past Wan-Bissaka at all. He even said that Wan-Bissaka was a very hard opponent as well to play against. And he did find it a tough time. He didn't actually have a successful dribble against Wan-Bissaka. And I only really seen Mitoma effective once he moved over to the right-hand side of Brighton. That's when you seen the effect of Mitoma. You didn't see it when he was playing on that left wing. I think Caicedo was very, very powerful in the midfield. He kept the tempo running very well. you can see why so many clubs are after Caicedo, because I think he is an outstanding player. But I do think, for me, in my opinion, and I did say this on your watch along, the thing that lets down, the thing I say let down Brighton was the Wembley experience, because they didn't have they don't have much Wembley experience compared to Manchester United in the history of both clubs. And I think knowing that it's a massive atmosphere, it's a massive stadium, one of the best stadiums in the UK. There's no question about that. All the trophies get won there, and I think it can get a little bit daunting for the smaller clubs. Not that Brighton is a small club, but the less experienced clubs to come in and try and nick a point from with the history of the club, and potentially they could have, even if we was to want they was the ones who went through, it could have been an even bigger challenge playing against Manchester City.
Yeah. Am I right in saying the last time Brighton were actually in a game at Wembley, it was the semi-final in 2019? I mean, it was that long ago, wasn't it? They haven't been to Wembley in, what, 4 years? Am I right?
I believe so, but I don't think they've been in that many Wembley.
I only know they've been in one final, and that was at the old Wembley, and they lost. That was when they actually should have won.
They've never won a game at Wembley.
Yeah, they've got a really bad record at Wembley.
They've never won a game at Wembley. Let's have, I'm just trying to have a look at their appearances. What Brighton Wembley appearances history.
I only know of the two I know they were at one in 2019, then they lost twice to us, the semi-final and the final, but that's all I know.
The first time they was at Wembley was 1983, it says. Which is that the FA Cup against Sheffield Wednesday. But they've had one draw, 4 losses in their 5 visits in their history at Wembley.
Oh, that's not good. That's poor.
And I think under De Zerbi, I think they could potentially get that trophy. They can potentially get into that Europa League or European spot, but they do. The squad is a very young squad, and I think it's just lacking that little bit of experience. I know they've got McAllister now, the first ever player for Brighton to win a World Cup, and that's great for the Brighton squad, but I think they just needed that tiny bit more. And maybe if Ferguson was playing, maybe that could have been a different story as well.
Oh yeah, I know a lot of fans are jumping on the Ferguson bandwagon. I think he's a good player. I'm just like, I don't like. I've watched Brighton, but I haven't watched them an awful lot to give a full justified opinion of him. But from what I have seen, big, powerful, good with the ball, deceptively quick, good for Republic of Ireland going forward as well, like long-term striker option as well. They've got someone. We'll see how he fares. I might get. The crazy thing is when you look at that Brighton team, I thought, despite missing the penalty, I thought Solly March was fantastic as well throughout the whole game. I thought Caicedo, I agree with. I thought Dan Burn and Webb. I thought Dan Burn, etc., at centre back with Webster, like passing the ball really well.
Burn?
Sorry, Lewis Dunk. Sorry.
I was gonna say, Dan Burn.
The reason why I said Dan Burn is because the amount of times I had Dan Burn mentioned in my live chat like twice on Sunday in the watch along, right? But I said Webster to Dunk to Webster about 50 times. It was just like sick in my head. I was like, nah, I'm sick of saying this. I thought they were outstanding. But see, from that Brighton team itself, I would take maybe 3 of those first team and put them straight into our side. Maybe not immediately first team, but I would have them like in the squad. I think they would generally improve us. And funnily enough, I said Matoma, he's one of them. The other's Caicedo, depending on what we'd look at, but it's expensive. The other's actually McAllister. I really do like McAllister.
Here's a question. Where would McAllister play? I like McAllister. I'd take McAllister. But if you was going to put him in the starting 11, where would you play him?
If we play him in the starting 11, I would put him beside Casemiro. When Eriksen's not playing, I think, because I think you put Casemiro as the solo. Like, he's not the player I would want firsthand to be my partner. For Casemiro, but like I prefer other players like Kenneth Taylor at Ajax. I think Mason Mount would actually be a smarter player in that position than McAllister. But the way he played
Say
there,
that again.
no, one time only. don't get too excited, babe. All right, Mason Mount.
Say one more. Say it again.
All right, okay. She's screen recording this. She's doing this again. All right, I'll say it. All right, okay, I'll say it. I think when you look at it, even though I'm not a big fan of his, I think if you're looking at that position, if you're putting him as an 8 role beside Casemiro, Mason Mount wouldn't be a bad idea.
I will be screen recording this, by the way. 11 minutes 20.
You know I'm not a big fan, though. You know I'm not a big fan of his, so at least I'm being honest. But McAllister, I think, done really well in that position at the weekend, and then he moved into. I know I can see it, Vincent. I can see the comment. I was looking at the live chat. I was waiting to see if anyone said anything. I thought he played really well in that position beside Caicedo. Caicedo was dominating and McAllister could move about. But when McAllister went in that 10 role, I was like, I wouldn't mind McAllister as a rotational number 10. I think he would actually be a wise move. And because Bruno Fernandes isn't going to play every single game, let's be real. And he shouldn't have to.
No, I agree he shouldn't have to. For me, I wouldn't play McAllister in the 8. I don't think he is box-to-box minded. He is attacking-minded player. So there'd be 2 places where I will play McAllister. One of them is a risk, what I'm going to say. One of them is a number 10. Or what we could, what we could either do is play Bruno Fernandes and McAllister as a joint 10 and have Casemiro behind. That could be one option. One of them would be a rotational basis, but knowing that McAllister is getting into the Argentina squad, is he gonna want to be a rotational player? That's a question.
That's a good point.
Another one, what I would do would be a backup false 9 player.
All right, okay. Present your case. Go on. But actually, hold on. Let me throw this question to you. Backup false 9 to who?
Backup false 9 to whoever we get.
She's saying Wout Weghorst on a permanent. Everybody.
Them words did not come out my mouth.
I'm joking.
Just because you like Wout Weghorst, right?
Whoa. I like the fact he's hardworking, but the fact that he couldn't score in an empty door says a lot. Like an empty net is still impenetrable to Wout Weghorst. I like the fact he works hard and he actually presses defenses really well, but he really just cannot finish. Like that worries me.
Well, he scored his penalty, didn't he?
Yes, and he also done a very funny knee slide as well. I mean,
yeah.
I love that. To be fair, that was nice.
To be honest, right. Out of the strikers, I'd take Harry Kane. But the why are you looking at me like that?
That's my fear. Is Harry Kane? It's my fear. Like, I think like.
Right, people are gonna look at Harry Kane. He's a serial loser. Okay, fine. But look at Robin van Persie, for instance. What did he win at Arsenal before he came to Manchester United?
The Golden Boot. That was it.
Well, there you go. And that's exactly what Harry Kane has won. I know Harry Kane isn't leaving. I don't think he will. But that is who I would prefer to take.
No, I don't like... I
think Osimhen's a great striker. But I think the problem is with Osimhen is that he needs someone to provide for him to actually get a goal. And
we saw that in the Champions League.
We have seen that in the Champions League. Whereas Harry Kane, he has fed himself massively this season. When Richarlison's crap. Heung-min Son has been terrible this season.
He has.
And I think Harry Kane, he has really provided for himself, dropping further deeper than a midfield to get to the net and score. He's on 20 plus goals. And I think he isn't getting that recognition because Erling Haaland's a monster. He isn't human. When I checked his heart rate. But like
she was pure. She was like, beep. Failed to register heart rate. Moving on.
Look at our wingers. Our wingers and a providing type of wingers. There are a cutting in type of wingers and shooting and scoring type of wingers.
That's what I was going to say.
And I don't think that would suit the likes of Osimhen. And you need a creative type of winger to suit Osimhen. Whereas Harry Kane, he would still be suited if he had Rashford and Antony, because he'd have the feeder there with Bruno Fernandes, and he'd still be able to feed himself.
No, I agree. My fear with Harry Kane isn't about the lack of trophies. That, to be fair, there are going to be. I think we all do to a degree, Tolumba. Good to see you and everyone else in the live chat as well. My fear with Harry Kane isn't that he hasn't won anything at Tottenham. Like, Pep Guardiola could go to Tottenham and he would still win. Excuse my language. Pep Guardiola would win fuck all if he went to Tottenham. He would win nothing, right? You put Guardiola, Xavi, Iniesta, and Messi at that Spurs team, and they still win nothing because it's Tottenham. The Tottenham mentality will always prevail for failure. Like, they are serial failures. So you're not going to get anything. But to a degree, my biggest fear with Harry Kane is it's not that he doesn't score goals. It's not that he fails to create. Harry Kane does all that in an abundance. My biggest fear with Harry Kane is the issues with the injuries. Very true. The injury problems for me really do come up. Like, the ankle injuries are very frequent with him. And the second of all is I would still want him to be at least 10 to 15 yards, maybe 20 yards near the box. He drops 40, 50 yards, and that scares the hell out of me.
It's a question, right? If he actually had someone who could provide for him, do you think he would drop deep?
Unlikely.
You look at England. Even at England, he doesn't have anyone to provide for him because Sterling is a cutting-in type of winger, and so is Bukayo Saka. They're both cutting-in types of wingers, so he is still needing to feed himself. We play in that 4-3-3, or a 4-2-3-1, and Jude Bellingham is more box-to-box for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's not a creator.
He isn't. Calvin Phillips, if he was to play, he isn't a creative type of player. Neither is Declan Rice. Neither is Jordan Henderson.
Can I ask you a question on Declan Rice, actually? Because I've been going through this back in my head lately, and this is mad because you know my opinion on Declan Rice as well. But the way he's actually elevated his game the past 2 seasons, I would still actually have him at United as well. Even though I've never been too big a fan of his, I would still have him in.
Too expensive.
I know, that's my only thing. But do you think because he's actually added more to his game this year, it would actually be a slightly different midfield if he was in the team? If it was, say for example, it was him. Say for example, we still got Harry Kane, right? Hypothetically, we sign Harry Kane and he's our striker. Fine. Bruno Fernandes in the 10 role. Even though you don't like him because he's never really shown you yet, but you still want to see more Antony on the right wing. You've got the right to say that because, to be fair, he's been even though I love the guy to death, he has been inconsistent at times, but at least he works hard. You've got Rashford on the left wing, but then your midfield you've got Casemiro and Declan Rice. Now I love Christian Eriksen. I know you love Christian Eriksen. Do you think that midfield pairing is too similar, or do you think it has to be one or the other?
Far too defensive, in my opinion, and that's the kind of ones that you'd use for the low block. You're still going to be paying easily 60-odd million for Declan Rice. Declan Rice, Casemiro can go forward, even though he's a defensive type player, he can still chip it over and get an assist for Rashford with his long crossing. Yeah. He can still head a ball and score a goal. Declan Rice doesn't have none of them elements to his game. Yeah. He isn't fantastic in the air. He is a very good defensive midfielder, and I'm not going to dispute that, not for a single second. But True. Just because he scored 2 goals in all competitions this season does not mean that, for me, he's really changed. He's still defensive-minded. Great. If that's all we had in the game, and that's what we needed, fine. But we need more box-to-box / creative midfielders now. We don't need a Declan Rice type of player for that price.
Hypothetically, who would you sign for that position, hypothetically?
What, as a defensive midfield type?
No, actually, you know what? Yes, because we're going to need a Casemiro rotation.
We need a backup. I would take my man Palhinha. I'd take him with open arms, or I'd take Ugarte from Sporting.
Oh yeah, I would never say no to Palhinha either because I actually think the guy's outstanding. But then again, I would also say, well, Benfica have got Julian Weigl, so job done.
And then as a box-to-box midfielder, there's numerous of different ones about there. So, but I won't take Frankie de Jong just because I think that ship sailed. I think he's actually overrated with the Manchester United fan base, and we're getting far too hyped over him. And on top of that, I wouldn't take Jude Bellingham just because of the price tag either. Yeah. I just think we need to prioritise in other areas. I don't think the backup for Casemiro is overly. It's the first choice. I'd say a striker and a right back would be the first choice for me. Mm-hmm. And then after that, call me mad, but I'd say goalkeeper.
Well, we know exactly who you're signing anyway, so we may as well give you the keys to the castle.
Well, of course. Like, we all know I'm going to be signing my favourite goalkeeper in the world.
Mike, my man.
No.
That's mine. No, we know you're signing David Raya. We know, let's be real. She's signing David Raya from Brentford, everybody, which is smart.
Let's quickly say hi to people who's in the chat who's new. Hey there, Zoe. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. Hey there to our Lumber. Hope you are well. Thanks for coming in. Good evening, Vincent. I hope you are well. Thanks for coming in. Hi, Vincent.
Hi, Vincent.
Well, hi, Vincent. I'm not called Reece, so not as far as I'm aware. Hey there, Liam. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well. Hey there to Niall. Hope you are well. Thanks for coming in. And hey there, Daz. I'm well, thank you. I hope you are well also. I know you've asked a few questions as well, Ravi. I'll get through them a little bit later on. But we'll quickly say this because we are going on to strikers. Rashford is a left winger. The backup for Rashford will be Garnacho or Jadon Sancho. So we don't need the Rashford backup. But Martial's leaving. Martial's pony. Like, I would literally rather sign a pony than play Anthony Martial in the striker role. To be honest, what I would personally do, right? That's why I said I'd sign Alexis McAllister and alongside with Harry Kane, he would be the false 9 backup.
That's reasonable. This is my thing, right? The crazy thing is, though, is we know that Osimhen and Kane are the main two that are mentioned. We know they're the main two that always creep up, and understandably so. You know what wouldn't surprise me, though, is Marcus Rashford has molded himself into that goal scorer. He's having, well, to a degree, that goal scorer, and he's having his best scoring season under Ten Hag. We don't know what it's going to be like next year, but he's doing that from the left-sided position, and he's done it as well through the middle at times as well. It wouldn't surprise me if Ten Hag wants to continue to give Jadon Sancho more chances to try and get himself into this team and get back to his best. It wouldn't surprise me if Garnacho and Sancho are fighting for the left wing next year. We might not even sign a striker. It could be Rashford up front, and it could be Antony and whoever on the right hand, Antony and Ahmad.
We still need a backup at least.
No, I know. I think it could certainly happen, but I'm not sure.
With Amad Diallo, I wouldn't put him in the squad, not even as a backup. This is what the problem is with Manchester United fans. We overhype our youth players / the young players we sign, who we loan out to the Championship. We think they're going to be the next best thing after sliced bread, and then they flop hard, massively. Look at James Gardner. He ripped it up with Nottingham Forest both his seasons.
True.
At Nottingham Forest. We sold him. Fair enough. He's not getting into the squad. How many chances has he played for Everton? Why is he not even getting a look in either Frank Lampard's or Sean Dyche's Everton? Because he's clearly not good enough. And that says a lot with a relegation fight battle, Everton. Yeah, and I think this is what the problem is. That the Championship is a completely different kettle of fish compared to the Premier League. It's a massive step forward.
Yes.
Personally, in my opinion, we should have let James Gardner go to Forest. See if he could cut it out there. But I just think with Ahmad, he needs a loan spell in the Premier League first to decide is he a Premier League cut-out player.
That's fair.
And I will be loaning him out to a lower Premier League club, so we can try and see if we get the best out of him. Maybe a good option there would be Everton. Maybe a good because he's got friends there with James Gardner. Could potentially Nottingham Forest be a good experience if they keep Steve Cooper, because Steve Cooper he is a fantastic young manager who gives a lot of players opportunities. West Ham, if they stayed up, I think that would be another good option, especially if West Ham goes to win the Europa Conference League, because they have got an extra competition to play in.
And Bowen's has been. I do rate Jared Bowen, but he's actually been quite poor He's been quite poor this year. He's only started to regain confidence. You know who else I was thinking of? If we loaned out Diallo to a Premier League club next year, I would actually consider Fulham, because I think he would learn a lot of Willian.
And as well, James Garner. What's it called? Dan James will be going back to Leeds because he's signed a loan deal.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So he can learn to play both positions. He can learn to play more on the left-hand side, but obviously he's got through the middle, and he's got experience of playing as a striker, and so he can rotate with Mitrovic if Mitrovic needs a break. Because let's be real, Vinicius is crap, and Willian is an older player. He's still good to a degree, but he wouldn't last much. But you would at least have something. I was thinking of that. I like Amad Diallo. I mean, he did have some decent performances at Rangers, but there was a lot of times where he was really hit and miss in front of goal. But he's still an exciting player.
Zoe is spot on. Is that guy who I rate from Celtic? You know who I mean?
The fact
say the name. Say the name.
The fact that you bounced happy saying that makes me flaming terrifying. Okay, so there's three prominent Japanese players at the club. But the one you're thinking of is Kyogo Furuhashi.
Yeah, I can't pronounce it.
Right, we'll do it together. Kyogo.
No, I'm not doing a spelling lesson.
You're not gonna get mugged. Just say Kyogo.
I'm not doing a spelling lesson.
Right, say Furuhashi. Say Furuhashi.
No, just that guy. The guy.
Right, Kyogo.
The striker. I'm just gonna call him the striker who plays for the Japanese national team. That's better.
Right, that's Kyogo.
Carry on.
Okay, yeah, he's actually a decent player, to be fair. But when you look at it in the nutshell, I think that would be a smart move for him to go on loan there. I actually think as well, depending on who they get as a manager next year, and they play a 4-3-3, good wingers. Amad Diallo at Crystal Palace on loan?
No, too defensive.
But we don't know who their new manager's going to be.
They're going to extend Roy Hodgson.
It's not going to be Roy Hodgson. No way.
They're going to extend it. But you mentioned Harry Kane gets injured a lot. Can I quickly show you Harry Kane's injury record?
Go on, even though I said frequent ankle injuries, but sure you're going to prove me wrong anyway. Furuhashi reminds me of Rooney.
He's only ever had, in the last so many seasons, he has had 2 ankle injuries. And he hasn't even picked up a single injury this season, playing in all competitions.
It's still like...
You look at that, right? Right, you look at that, right? In one season, right, he's missed 5 games out of 38. 5 games out of 38 isn't a bad record.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's just my fear of it. It's the same injuries he gets every time. That's what worries me.
2 ankle injuries, unknown injury, fitness. So before the 2 ankle injuries, the last time he had an ankle injury was the 2017-18. So that was 3 years ago.
That's true. And then and then you look at on the side, like some of the games he's missed. That's crazy.
What?
But I mean, like,
yeah, but it's not a bad injury record as of late.
Compared to other players, no, I do agree. It's not like he's what's his name? It's that striker that always gets There's a striker that always gets bloody injured over absolutely nothing. Then he turns up again. He has an absolute masterclass. What's his name? Try to remember. I would have said Lukaku, but he's not an elite striker. But either way, I know I do agree in that sense. It's just that part there. But I tell you what, though, if he does come to us, though,
Yeah,
least,
that's who you meant.
but I was trying to think of elite strikers. The good thing for us, though, is at least we wouldn't have to worry about that position for at least 2-3 years. I mean, I will give Harry Kane that. At least it's 2-3 years. Like, we don't have to worry that he's in that position. We can just focus on building around at least. So that's my big positive on Kane, at least, besides the numbers he does bring up, is that wealth of experience. And at least doesn't have to worry about adapting to the league. As much as I would prefer a younger striker like Osimhen, he is outweighed by the fact that Harry Kane has a complete abundance of Premier League experience at the, I was going to say highest level, but Tottenham aren't a great club. But he has at least experience of competing regularly in Europe as well with a club that always chases Europe. So he has that.
So let's go on a little bit about Tottenham. We know Tottenham is basically a car crash. They are doing protests just like ourselves in terms of wanting Levy out.
You're firmly on that one now too.
Yes, I'm currently on the bandwagon with Levy out as well. Not because I want to compromise with the Tottenham fans, because he wants to make the Women's Super League into a closed league with no relegation and no promotions. Which means Tottenham would never get relegated, because he knows if all of the bottom three get a win this weekend, they will be in the bottom.
Yeah.
I think it is a car crash. I think for me is Conte. Conte really had no excuses. Initially, because Conte saying about the players, he didn't play for him, blah 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 blah. But the problem is he got massively backed. You look at all of the other players. I think I watched something on Sky Sports, and it was like all the players who are still in the squad from each manager. Conte had a hell of a lot of players.
And generally good players as well. Like Ravi's put in the live chat about Kulusevski. Even though he's came from Juventus and I can't stand them, I really like Kulusevski. I think he's an outstanding winger. That's a good player, and he should be playing every bloody week. Like, I mean, you look at the team as well. Like, they spent big on Richarlison, even though he's hot and cold. He's shit for Tottenham, but he turns into R9 when he goes to Brazil, which is quite funny. Dan Juma, is he permanent or is he loan? Dan Juma?
Dan Juma is a loan.
Not that it matters anyway.
He didn't even play Dan Juma. He played him in the Carabao Cup game, and then he was like, he was not used until Stellini used him.
Which is a shame, because I actually think Dan Juma's a good player. I think he was doing really well at Villarreal as well. Brian Gill, they brought him in, didn't even use him. Player that you like that only I caught on quite recently, DJ Spence, brought him in.
My guy.
Brought him in, don't use him. Ben Tanker, spot on. Brilliant midfielder. It's probably one of the very few that's actually worked out for him. Pedro Porro, most pointless signing Tottenham have ever made. Because
the thing is, what is really funny about Pedro Porro.
That wasn't slander on Porro, by the way. It's
no, it wasn't. I know it wasn't slander on Porro, because you know what will happen if you slander Porro. But
I'll die.
But what I'm gonna say about Porro is basically it was the most silliest thing going. So first, like, you look at it, first of all, there was negotiating. Spurs was refusing to pay this transfer fee, and Porro really wanted to go to Tottenham. Don't know why Porro wants to ruin his career, but fair enough to him. And then in the end, Tottenham and Sporting always said from the beginning, I want that £40 release clause. It's as simple as that. £40 release clause or nothing. Tottenham was trying to negotiate. They was offering 30 mil. They was offering 20 mil in Emerson Royale. And I think it got to the point where Sporting are like, are you genuinely like taking the piss here? And then the last couple of days before the transfer window, the last couple, it got agreed that Porro will get used for like pay for 40 million. Then in the last day when Porro was about to go, Spurs refused to pay for the admin fees.
They're strange football. They're a strange football
in the
club.
end, and the admin fees were only like 2 mil, so they refused to pay 2 mil. And in the end, what got agreed was he was going to do a loan deal to Sporting till the end of the season. Then they'd sign him. So if Sporting really wanted to, at the end of the season, they don't have to accept his transfer fee and he could go back.
Honestly, they're such a strange football club. If he has any brain cells, he'll go back. If he's got any brain cells, he'll be like, nah, I'm not staying. I'm going back to Portugal.
Let's have a look, though, how much Conte has been backed here. He's had Richarlison for 58 million.
He's the Suma, yeah.
Christian Romero, who actually was the only centre-back signing that has been signed in the last 5 years at Tottenham.
The last one was Davinson Sanchez, was it?
Correct. He was signed for 50 mil from Atalanta. Bissouma, one who everybody rated so highly, 29.20 million from Brighton. Bentancur, 19 million. I have no clue who this left back is of Destiny.
Destiny Udogie. He's barely played. He's barely played a game for them.
18 mil. Spence, 14.7 mil. Kulusevski, loan fee. Pedro Porro, loan fee. Danjuma, loan fee. Perisic, 3 transfer. Fraser Forster, 3 for transfer. And Clement is also on a loan fee.
He's utter shite. He's utter shite and all, Clement Lenglet.
Considering you look at them 12 players, is in a season and a half. Well, yeah, I'd actually you say a season, wouldn't you? Really, in a season, he has had a squad full of players. He could literally make a starting 11 out of these players.
He could. The one thing that's always been repetitive about him as well is the same. is the one thing that he actually, when he was at the likes of Juventus and when he was at Inter Milan, when he was at Chelsea, he was still using the back three system, but he would mix it up. So he would play the 3-4-3 in some games. Then he would play a 3-5-2, depending on the opposition. Then he would play a 3-4-1-2 to get a player involved. Then he would make it a little bit more restricted. And he would play a 3-4-2-1, which is what he's done all season. But they really, this year has been one system, hit or miss, and they've been overrun every week in midfield. Like they get overrun so much. Like you can see it in Europe every time they were going to play a game of football. You're like, how many goals are Tottenham going to concede this week? Because if you're going to play 2 midfield against 3, they just need to drop off you by a couple of yards and then come at you. You're humped. So they really don't know what they're doing. So like in terms of numbers, yeah, they've had like a squad full of like signings
and
in there.
And on top of that, they're Conte signings. It's not as though like you're getting like Tottenham fans who are saying these are not Conte signings. How is Perisic not a Conte signing? The guy who made him into a wing back, like for God's sake. Yeah. Mm-hmm. How isn't Kulusevski a Conte signing? How is Pedro Porro not a Conte signing?
Exactly. Like that's a wing back that suits him. It's a flying wing back that can create. You've got a very explosive winger in Kulusevski from his boyhood club. You got Bentancur, who's a very comfortable player on the ball, but he's also box to box. Christian Romero, very erratic, like Conte was as a player, but still technically very good. Christian Romero, as was Antonio Conte, but Christian Romero as a player, even though I think he's a good player, but he's so damn erratic at times that it lets him down, and you can see why Conte a lot of the time was like, wow, I actually have to play Eric Dyer beside you to keep you calm. that says a lot about their team as a whole. Like, it's just all over the place. Eric Dyer had to go to stay at centre back just so Christian Romero had cover, because 9 times out of 10 he's either going to get booked or he's going to get sent off for being a complete
thought you
dummy.
liked Christian Romero.
I like Christian Romero. I do like Christian
I
Romero.
don't rate him, by the way.
I like him, but that's fair. I do like him, but he definitely has his issues that are very clear and concise, and the most obvious one is discipline. Discipline is definitely his biggest issue than anything else, especially the amount of cards he's accumulated this year.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I just want to get as well your thoughts on the current situation of Tottenham itself, not with the management, because obviously Conte got sacked, and that Tottenham side is a back three specialism now, if you want to call it that. And Conte has made that. I do agree with what Zoe is saying here, that the biggest issue at Spurs is Daniel Levy. I think Daniel Levy is an absolute parasite,
Yes.
and he does need to leave football in general, because I think he is disgusting. What I don't understand is, you sack Conte. Agree with it, disagree with it. It doesn't matter. But you want to sack him for Conte's clone, called Stellalina, and then Conte's clone gets sacked for Ryan Mason, who lost you the Carabao Cup final.
Yeah, it really is worrying. I mean, it's pure entertainment for us, but if you're a Spurs fan, like I know a few Spurs fans, they honestly do not know. They honestly do not know what is coming next. Now, I hope to Christ that Julian Nagelsmann does not go near them. I hope that he does not go near them, because that'll put fear in my eye as someone who really likes him. But if they want to stick to a back three manager, it makes sense. When I look at that Tottenham team, funnily enough, right, is they actually played the right system against Newcastle. The problem is they're not overall well balanced to play a 4-3-3, but that team should be playing a back four. I think they need the cover in midfield. They need that cover in midfield. That's what I'm saying. They need that cover. But I don't know what to really expect from Tottenham going forward, because right at the very top, Daniel Levy thinks he's Scarface, but he's more like burnt chalk. Like he really does not know what he's doing at all, and he's such a tight negotiator because nobody really gives a shit about him. So he has to be that, to act tough, to see if he can dominate a situation. But I don't think they are generally going to go anywhere with him in charge. And I don't think they'll get the right manager either, because look at Pochettino. I've never been a big fan of Pochettino. He actually done a decent job. Got into a Champions League final without even getting any money spent on him for about, over a year. And he didn't get any money after that final. And then they sacked him 6 months later. They bring in Jose Mourinho as somebody who he's won everywhere. Okay, we'll get Mourinho in. We're going to go and do something. Mourinho didn't work out, and now he's doing brilliant with Roma. They get in Conte, who has literally won everywhere he's went when it comes to league titles, and he flopped. So I'm like, do Tottenham need to do the smart thing here, which is a very rare thing? Do they need to go down, funnily enough, the route of their great club rivals? Not directly do an Arsenal and get an Arteta type manager in charge, but actually get a manager they can build around, who has a specific style of play, who will be backed.
Wouldn't you say that they've done that with Conte though? They've got specific players for Conte.
Aye, but
this
Conte
is the problem, also.
Conte can only manage one game a week. They need somebody that can actually do more than that. I don't know.
This is what the problem is, though, is that there's too many players now. Whoever comes in, they're going to have to bring a manager in who is better in the back three, based off the players who they've got, and maybe transition it to a back four eventually. I don't think they can officially do that at this moment in time.
Yeah, they can't just cut all that squad out so quickly. There's no
This
way
is, I
Daniel
know
Lee would
you've
allow it.
mentioned about the back four, but if you remember over the weekend, Stellini actually tried a back four and they got destroyed.
Yeah, that's my thing. I think it was bold, but that's what they should be playing. They should be playing the back four. But the problem is they just don't have anybody to do it. And I think Andrew's right as well, about the Conte setup. What surprised me is Conte was known at Inter and Juventus as well. Like if the 3-4-3 wasn't working, he would drop a winger and he would bring on a midfielder, and he would go two up top and he'd play a 3-5-2. So he done that when with Tottenham. He played the same system every single week, regardless. He never made that change. It was just, I'll just bring on a substitute. I'll just make a substitution. He never changed up tactically, and they were getting overrun. They were like, they've got so many. They've got some good midfielders. They could have put one midfielder in there and still like played two up top with Son and Kane if they wanted to. Like they have that. He just never changed, and I think for somebody who's renowned for that style of football and somebody who's renowned for actually motivating a team to a level that's aggressive and pragmatic, but it's also well aware of changing systems when he had to on the fly, he didn't do it once. And I think that says a lot. Either he didn't trust that squad to do it.
I agree with this, so what
Or
Julio
something
has
else.
said. Did you see the players in that back four? Two of them are defenders in Dyer and Perisic, and the other two are defensively disciplined. And I completely agree with that because playing Perisic as a left back, that does not work. He is a winger. You're playing Pedro Porro, where I absolutely adore Pedro Porro with all my heart and more. You know that I absolutely adore Pedro Porro, and the fact that I even said that playing Pedro Porro in the back four will not work. I've even said that before he got to that Spain national team, and I said I would not put Pedro Porro in any team that plays back four because he gets exposed in the back four. And Spain and the weekend's game really, really shown that. And I completely agree with Eric Dyer. He's more a defensive type midfielder, which he was playing at Sporting.
Yeah, you know what's kind of ironic as well is they played the same. Conte plays at Tottenham the same system that Ruben Amorim plays at Sporting. He plays a 3-4-2-1.
Sometimes Ruben plays 3-4-3. I think it depends on the opponent.
Yeah, you'll bring them in that
who we're
way.
going, because what he's been trying to do is he plays the 3-4-3 where we've got when Sporting have got Chirameni up front, just because Chirameni isn't how can I say? I don't rate him. I think he's very sloppy and he's worse than Weghorst for scoring, but I do think that he's very, very young and he does have plenty of time to improve upon. I think he will play the 3-4-2-1 though when Paulinho was in place, so they can feed to Paulinho.
Yeah, because then you've got in behind you've got who I think is an absolute amazing player. We've got you got Marcus Edwards, who could play either as a winger or you can put him in that in that 10 position in a 3-4-2-1. You can do the exact same with Pedro Goncalves, who I wanted Pedro Goncalves before Man Utd even signed Jadon Sancho. Like I wanted Pedro Goncalves. I rate him that much. I think he's fantastic. You've got that transition. I personally think right there and then that should, if Tottenham are going to stick with the back three, you've got to go with somebody who, like Nagelsmann has went from a back three to a back four, back to a back three. Ruben Amorim has never changed.
No, but sometimes that's really cost Sporting this season as well. But I don't think any of the players suit the back four either, if you want me to be fairly honest, because you actually need a proper right back, which Sporting does not have. And I don't even think they've got a proper left back either, because they haven't got a proper left back, because I think the one who they did have went on loan and then got permanently sold. And this obviously, and on top of that, Nuno Santos, they're letting go to PSG, which I think is a massive, massive mistake.
I thought he was quality.
He is quality, and the problem is now is if they was to play a back four, that means that it's gonna be Reece, who would end up playing as a left back, but he is more of a left centre back, as well as Inacio. And then it's the matter of if Inacio plays, Quartes isn't gonna get dropped because he's the captain. But otherwise, what they could do in the back four was they could play. If they were gonna, they'd be playing 4 centre backs in the back four technically, because they'd have Roos as a left back, then Inacio, then Quartes, then Saint Just, Saint in the as the right back, because he actually has the experience of playing the right back.
Yeah.
But I don't personally think that would be the right decision to play 4 centre backs in the back four. So I think that the squad that Sport have got is set up for the back three only. If they was to play the back four, it would really sabotage them.
Yeah, and I find that's personally what Tottenham have to do. Tottenham have tried to play back four. I think Tottenham have tried to play back four for a long time, but they're stuck with the back three because all they keep signing is wing backs and 2 midfield players to play in a 2-man system and then get it around with that level of attackers. So I think personally next year they have to stick with a manager that plays 4-3-3 every single week, and they've got to do it. I know you don't want him to leave Sporting, and rightfully so, but I think the smartest option for Tottenham, funnily enough, is actually to go and get Ruben Amorim. I think he'd be the wiser move than Nagelsmann.
He said he's attracted to the Premier League, but he will not leave Sporting until his contract's up. So he will not leave till 2026 as a minimum.
That's good at least.
Yeah, that is good. It's a bit of stability. Some Sporting fans do want him sacked, just because of how bad they've been this season. I do think that's a wrong decision, but I think, for instance, they need to get rid of Aiden in goal. I don't think he's good enough. And the backup goalkeeper is worse than him. And I just thought I'd never say that, but.
Diamante's good, by the way. That Diamante you were telling me about.
I told you he was great. So have you actually watched him? Have you actually watched him now?
Yeah, the young centre back. I think he's fantastic. I think he's got a lot of potential in that position, like especially for the Ivory Coast. I think he could get into their team the next couple of years, certainly as a mainstay centre back. And I look at who they've got amongst that team as well. Who's the young Greek midfielder that they've got?
Alex Patalotis.
I think he's got a lot of potential as well.
The problem is that Ruben doesn't play him. I don't think he overly trusts him. So he's actually been playing in the under-23s this season.
Yeah. I think the funny thing is, though, is if he was to go to Tottenham, the crazy thing is, younger signings, I think he would be generally one of the first names that he would look at, besides maybe Diomande. And I actually think he would bring Marcus Edwards back to Tottenham.
I've told you Diomande. I've told you this.
Yeah, I really do rate Marcus Edwards, by the way. Like him and Pedro Gonçalves. I'm looking at that Tottenham team.
Pedro Gonçalves could be going to Aston Villa in the summer.
Makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Like Unai Emery would love a player of his quality, like as a 10, as an 8, as a winger. I know we're going off track for a little bit, but it's actually clever in a way, because when you look at the Tottenham squad versus the Sporting squad, it's carbon for carbon, system for system. But Kulusevski on loan, Danjuma on loan, right there and then, if they were to bring in, say, a Ruben Amorim, Tottenham have got money. Marcus Edwards on the right, Pedro Gonçalves left wing. There you go. Because Heung-min Son is questionable right now as well. The midfield, their best midfielders are Bentancur and Højbjerg. Sporting Lisbon have got Ugarte, fantastic. They've got I'm not even going to attempt that Greek name again. I'm not even going to bloody bother. Mateus Fernandes, 18-year-old, fantastic. I think he's got really good potential as a box-to-box midfielder. When you look at it and how he's moulded that team at Sporting Lisbon over the past couple of years, including the unbeaten season, they have something there that actually would go straight into that Tottenham team, and you would replenish it straight away, and they would actually have players actually understand the system really well, and you won't have to worry about who fits the back three when he's like, well, I already manage a back three. I already know who comes in. So you've already got that benefit as well. scary thing is, though, under Ruben Amorim, I'd actually take Tottenham more seriously. I like Antonio Conte. A lot of people that know me know I like Antonio Conte. You know as well. But I generally think Ruben Amorim would actually make Tottenham more serious because he would actually switch things up if nothing's going for them in a positive way.
What I'll do before I go into the comments, I wanted to do this with you. I done it with Andy and Chloe, so I wanted to do a Man United men's channel, Man United's men's version of it. So here it is. Player of the season, flop of the season, most improved player of the season, unsung hero, signing of the season.
What club are we doing this for? Are we doing this for Tottenham?
For Man United.
Oh, Man United. All right. Okay. Right. Player of the season. See, this is hard because player of the season could also be sign the season, but I'd really like certain players. Player of the season, I'm gonna say Casemiro.
Okay. I'll say my player of the season as well, so we'll do one at a time. Hey there as well to my queen. Thanks for coming in. Hope that you are well.
Good evening to you too.
I had the same. I had Casemiro, but very narrowly followed by Lisandro.
Yeah, he was also mine. Lisandro Martinez. That's why I put Lisandro Martinez as signing of the season. Because you can see immediately how terrible our centre backs are. Like how terrible our centre back position is. Not apart from Varane. That's why I've done it. I like Andrews. My flop of the season. I can see why he's put Ronaldo. He's most likely agree on that one. I don't want to be too harsh, but I also would have said Jadon Sancho. I think Jadon Sancho's actually flopped, but then again, he's had a lot of issues. I think that would be harsh to say. So I agree, Ronaldo.
I had someone different.
McTominay or Fred? I'm only kidding. We would never say Fred.
I had Anthony Martial.
As flop of the season?
Yes. I know he's got a high goals per minute, but he's had too many injuries this season. You literally, as soon as he comes on the pitch, you might as well not see him for 6 months. Yeah. He's out that much. I think even now he's playing, he's walking. He's not putting that effort in. And I just think, for me, in my opinion, is you've seen him in pre-season where he looked absolutely immense. He was scoring quite a lot. He was fast. And we thought, like, here it is. Like, we've got Martial here. Like we're going to get very, very, it's going to be fantastic. We've got, Martial's finally got the Martial of the first season. And I just think that he's really I think he's really shown that Manchester United need to get rid of him now.
No, I do agree. I do agree. I don't think there's any arguments of that at all. Like, I genuinely can't think of that. They're two of the people I was thinking of, unsung heroes. I actually have another. I had another one in that, actually, maybe another one or two. One might raise questions. My most improved player, I know that Andrew said Wan-Bissaka, and that's actually a very smart shout. My most improved player, though, is Marcus Rashford. But I also said on my channel the other day when I got asked this question, I also said Bruno Fernandes. I said Bruno Fernandes in a different way. The reason I said most improved in that sense is he's become more of a controlling player. He's actually controlled games better. The stats have actually proven that. He might not have the same goals output, but he definitely has shown it by the fact that he's been more effective if he's passed it in the final third. That's why I had that improved sense there. But Rashford, for the goal input, has certainly been enough. Julio's actually mentioned unsung hero Anthony. He's one of mine.
Wait, do one at a time.
No, I'm just saying he's one of mine, but he's not specifically my unsung hero, but he's one of them. But my unsung hero, we'll get to that very shortly. But most improved player, I am going to say, I'm going with purely out the sense because he's actually carried us. It's Rashford.
I can understand why everyone has said Rashford, and the thing is, I think Rashford's improved, but I did not put him as most improved player. I understand that he has had a poor last season, and the thing is when Marcus Rashford first got into the squad, at a very young age, he was ripping it up. He was fantastic. It was right until he got that back to shoulder injury against Chelsea, was what really ruined him. And I think for me is that with the ceiling we had for Marcus Rashford, we kind of should have really expected him to be like that at this level anyway, compared to when he first come in. So this is why I wouldn't say he was the most improved player for me, just because of that reason. For me though, my most improved player was Fred.
Good shout.
Wan-Bissaka was a very close second. The reason why I say Fred is Fred was very hated in the fan base. He was quite a scapegoat. I can understand why Fred was disliked because there was a few things that I could understand as to why. But I think having that defensive midfielder next to him and not playing in that defensive type role itself, it's allowed him to be a lot more free, allowed him to go forward a lot more. He's been great in terms of coming off the bench as well. So yeah, I would have. That's my reason as to why I say Fred.
That's a great shout, and we've stood by Fred for a long time. I mean, we've got a nickname for Fred. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I love Fred. I mean, I defend Fred more than a few of my friends. But that's just because it's not in a harsh way. Like, he gets defends anyway, but like I really just defend Fred because like I think he's one of the most scapegoaty players in our entire team. Like I genuinely think he's one of the most scapegoaty players, and I think people when you look at when you look at what players do in the field, people are looking for players to chop up trees. They're expecting Fred to go from just a standard player to like a Rodri within 6 weeks. He's not going to do that. He's not that type of player. He's not going to go from Fred level to, say, Bruno Guimaraes. He isn't going to do that. But what he actually does do is he breaks up play. He will fight for every first, second, third ball. He gets stuck in. He's actually got the best. I actually think he's got one of the best visions in the league, especially when it's actually trapping a ball from mid-air. When the ball's in the air, the one thing he does really well is anticipation. He anticipates where the ball is going to move, and he actually positions himself really well where we then start a counter-attack. He's actually very clever at that. It's actually one of his best traits. There's nobody in the league that actually does that, funnily enough. And another thing as well, though, is he will not stop running. You look at other players that are just walking and walking and walking. He will just keep going. He just does
Who's
not care.
your most improved player of this? Wait, have I done that? Who's your unsung hero?
It's hard to choose, but it's between four. But I'll probably end up choosing one. So it's between.
You have to only pick one.
I know. I have to. So my unsung heroes, it's between Wan-Bissaka. It's between Christian Eriksen, Garnacho, and even though it's questionable because at times he's not always been consistent, but he works really hard, it's Anthony. But
I would disagree with the majority of them.
But
I disagree with Garnacho because he is actually very sung. Same reason as for Christian Eriksen. I think for me, Anthony doesn't have enough to be an unsung hero at this moment in time. And who's the other one you said? Wan-Bissaka. Wan-Bissaka is a good one.
But I think just the fact is, though, like at the start of the season until what was it, like 6 months to the season, like it was all Dalot. It was just Dalot playing right back. I know. When you look at it, though, it's effectiveness on the ball. It's about actually getting up the field, actually being able to shut up, stop. Oh, for goodness sake, Liverpool have scored. It says a lot that your strikers can't score, that Matip has to score. Ravi, you must be shit. Sorry, Nick, I forgot you don't like swearing. When you look at Wan-Bissaka's actually come in, actually made us more resolute. And I think you saw, especially in Europe as well, that Barcelona have been tearing up trees in La Liga. They couldn't do it against Wan-Bissaka, which is quite funny.
So you're going for Wan-Bissaka?
Yeah.
Okay. My unsung hero was Rafael Varane.
Okay.
I just think for me with Varane is he's that progressive type of centre back, and because Lissandro's Cormy stole the show, I don't think that the work that Varane has been doing has really been overly noticed.
It's become forgotten.
Yeah.
There's another good mention in the chat, actually. I think it was Zoe. Zoe said Malacia could be an unsung hero.
Yeah.
Would you
think
agree
that's a
with
good
that?
one. I think that's a good one, to be honest. I think Malacia it's a bit raw at the moment, but I think he's done well for his first season.
I think he's getting a lot of unfair criticism. I know he wasn't particularly great in these last couple of games, but bear in mind before that, he was not getting in the team. Dallo was getting picked ahead of him, and he was not played against teams I actually think suited him as well. So naturally, Luke Shaw was going to be first choice. Malacia reminds me in a way of Patrice Evra when Patrice Evra first joined the club. Yeah,
I said this.
Yeah, he does remind me of him. Like he's inexperienced, and obviously Gabriel Heinz at the time was first choice. Patrice Evra settled, and then he was never going to get played again. That's why he cried saying he wished he went to Liverpool, probably because he wanted to play for a shit club. What a shame. But like when you look at it, I do think he has something over time that will suit us. But to do that, he needs a consistent midfield, and he needs to have the right winger in front of him. If he has the right winger in front of him, it works. I think it has, unless he gets injured, it has to be Rashford every game.
Who's your signing of the season then?
Lisandro Martinez, easy.
I'd have to go for Casemiro. I've said he's my player of the season. It'd have to be the sign of the season.
That's understandable. The reason I went different is because it's hard to choose between the two of them. They're both brilliant buggers.
The thing is, I'm gonna say why I go Casemiro more is the problem is when Casemiro don't play, you can see the difference in the squad. Whereas when Lissandro doesn't play, and we actually still have like Varane and Lindelof, you don't really see too much of a difference as to we're losing games constantly. We're still getting wins without Lissandro, whereas we really struggle to actually get any points when Casemiro don't play.
That's understandable. Here's another question for you, because I know he's another player, funnily enough, we actually both really like, and we were glad this guy came into the club. But he was injured for a little while. Is Christian Eriksen considered a sign of the season for you?
No. I do love Christian Eriksen. You know, I love him. He's my favourite player. But I just think based off the injury, which was very unfortunate, and I think for me, when Eriksen hasn't played, we're still actually getting wins without Eriksen. I think he gives us a lot more calmness and composure in the midfield, but we're still getting the wins. We're still getting 3 points without him. So that's why I wouldn't say Christian Eriksen. For me, a sign of the season needs to be the difference where if you take this player out of the team, will you still succeed as a club?
No, I think that's very fair, and I think that's why the two easiest ones are easily Martinez and Martinez and Casemiro are definitely the two obvious choices. I certainly think so. That's not a bad shout, Luke Shaw. He's certainly
unsung hero, yeah, absolutely. He's been great in the midfield. Let's go into some questions. Just gonna okay. Question for both from Rabbit. Who at Man United do you think complements each other in defence and midfield when they play together?
Okay. Are we going by current squad overall or like
current squad?
Okay, so I have to rule. So the moment we have, so definitely when fully fit and available, Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane do complement each other very well. They definitely, Jesus Christ, Vincent. They definitely complement each other very well. I think Fernandes and Christian Eriksen complement each other very well. And even though he's actually, to be fair, I think in recent games it's shown a lot. There's two other ones for me. Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford clearly have a good link on the left-hand side, obviously both being English, but they do work really well with timing the runs. I think Wan-Bissaka and Antony complement each other very well on the overlap and allows him to cut in. And my last one, funnily enough, is De Gea and the ball going out wide. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that to De Gea. That's harsh. I think my last one, funnily enough, is, though, realistically, it's Martial and Rashford. Like, they do complement each other very well, but you can't trust Martial to stay fit. Like, you just can't.
Yeah, I think in recent games, ones who do very well.
Wow, I've just seen that.
That is actually that is horrible. That is horrible. That is horrible. She's disgusting. She is absolutely disgusting. But
she's vile.
Yeah. The ones who compliment me the most in the recent games would be Bruno and Sabitzer. Would be a big one for me.
Yes.
Another one.
Garnacho complements Luke Shaw really well. They actually do complement each other very well when they're playing together, or even when Rashford's through the middle. Garnacho complements him as well.
This is going to be an unpopular one. I actually think Sancho and Malacia complement each other.
They do, actually.
I think, yeah, and I also think Lindelof and Rashford.
Yeah. Yep. And
to say different ones to you.
Lindelof and Luke Shaw as well.
Mm-hmm.
They do. There's one other one, and you are 100% not going to like this. But they've played each other just a few times when he came on as a sub. But they actually do link well with passing the ball and actually overlapping for timing.
Please say it.
Dalot and Palestri. She doesn't like the name, but it's actually true. When you look at when Palestri's actually come on the field, him and Dalot have actually...
Dalot doesn't compliment anybody.
Sadly, they do, though. I know you don't like it, but they actually have, when he's come on in games, they've actually complimented very well.
No.
And yes, Andrew, in 2 or 3 years' time, I think Garnacho's ceiling is so high. I think he's absolutely amazing. The minute I saw him playing I watched him play for Atletico Madrid's youth academy versus Real Madrid before he joined us, and I was like, okay, we've got someone special.
Mm-hmm. Another question from Rabbi. Will United be able to kill the game off in the first half? I'm going to I was going to say no. The reason why I'm going to say no is no Bruno Fernandes.
The good thing is, though, he is walking without a protective
boot
or touches.
He isn't playing. He won't be playing.
That means, so who? Like, what's our midfield going to be then? It's going to be Eriksen.
It's going to be maybe Eriksen, Fred, Cass, or it could be Sabitzer, Eriksen, Cass, or it could be Sabitzer, Fred, Cass.
Have you noticed as well, when we haven't been playing Bruno Fernandes lately, we've been playing a 4-3-3?
Do you know, this is the thing though, we haven't won a single game without Bruno Fernandes playing.
I know. That's very true.
Do you want to tell you who Dalot compliments?
The bench. Sorry, I just knew where you were going. I'm sorry. I knew that's what you were going to say.
But yeah, I don't think we'll finish it off just because we don't have that creative attacking threat.
I think it will come back to. I think the only way we do is if Marcus Rashford latches onto a loose ball and scores.
Potentially. Ravi, do you guys rate Kulusevski? I'll go with you first, Reece.
Yeah, I really do rate Kulusevski. I said that I was saying it earlier on, like some of the players they've got, I think he's fantastic and he should play every single game for Tottenham. I think they're just phenomenal.
Yeah, I like Kulusevski, but he does get gets more injured than Harry Kane. So I just don't think that. I think he's great, and I think he is the main source of a creative threat for Tottenham, because there isn't many other players who can do that. But he just
Yeah,
gets injured far too much.
I agree.
And we'll finish off with Andrew's question. Spurs to bounce back, are they finished? I don't think they'll get into the top 4 this season now. I think that's done for, so they will need to fight for that top 6.
Yeah, they'll be lucky if they stay in the top 6 with Liverpool catching them, and obviously Villa are just doing amazing. I know a lot of people are raving that Eddie Howe is manager of the season quality. I'm going to say this now. Unai Emery, in half the time with no money, is manager of the year ahead of Eddie Howe. And so's De Sherby, in my opinion. I would have them out manager of the year ahead of Howe,
He
even though he's
hasn't
done
had
good.
money because of when he came into the club.
That's
Not
what I'm
because
saying
he
right now.
hasn't been backed, but the thing is the players who he's got, that should be a top half-table team, without a doubt.
If you're managed by Dross, you're not going to go anywhere. But he's come and got them organised, playing great football. And the scary thing is, though,
They've
is
scored in every game that they
they
played
could
under
get
Unai Emery.
they could generally get top 4. I generally think they could, depending on how things go, they could steal top 4 from us or Newcastle. Hopefully it's Newcastle, hopefully, because that'd be really funny. But the way we have to really stay consistent, not dropping too many points. We've got to be very careful that we are running, because we've got a hard running, and I am not sure how we're going to go with Tottenham. I really don't.
Well, what's your score prediction?
1-0 Man United.
I had the same. I had 1-0 as well.
Marcus Rashford, 1 goal. That's literally that's all I've got.
Fred Screamer. Seems like Fred likes to score against Tottenham. So
I wish we had a potent number 9 for this game, like Cavani or.
I think Fred has scored twice against Tottenham. He scored this season at home against Tottenham. And you remember, I think it was that one where Edinson Cavani scored that goal and Fred scored the last goal, and we were like, Fred.
It was also the same game where he done that beautiful silky skill move as well.
Ravi said Liverpool are winning tonight. I think Ravi is in so much disbelief because he doesn't know what it's like to win for Liverpool this season. But we'll wrap it up here now. Before we do wrap up, I will give the score lines at this moment. Nottingham Forest 3, Brighton 1. Chelsea 0, Brentford 2. West Ham 1, Liverpool 2. City 3, Arsenal 0.
Well, we know where the league is going, and it's definitely going to the Emirates. I wonder if a certain...
You mean Etihad?
I said it's not going to the Emirates.
Oh, I said it's going to Emirates.
Yeah, I think we know for sure. There's going to be a particular channel tonight that's going to be ranting and raving. I don't know about you, but I won't be watching. But it'll still be funny to hear the shouting. But still, Arsenal really they had the chance. We said that against Southampton. That was it. The minute they dropped points to Southampton, that was it. The league was over.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And with that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you, Reece, for coming on. It's been a great show.
Oh, Maze, thank you so much. I've actually really enjoyed this. Well, an hour and 20, it doesn't feel like it. It generally doesn't feel like it. I've had a lot of fun. It's good to be back on me. It's been quite a while, and it's just good to be amongst good company. So thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed this one. Need to get you on my channel soon.
Would you like to shout out your socials?
Yes, you can find me literally all right here. Facebook. I know, Jesus Christ, I don't use Facebook for this.
Why do you always say Facebook?
I don't know. I didn't mean it. YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Devil's Rising, and you can find me every Saturday on the Weekly Armchair for my wrestling podcast that I do at the weekend, and you can also find me on Josh's channel near enough every Monday when he's available. So that's that, and also you can just find me in here every time as well, because I'm always watching a Mace show, because like Mace is mine. So thank you, and also looking at the live chat, I do agree. You are just, even though you're my mate, you're an asshole. But also,
that's just so tight. Like, I'm so sorry about that, Julio. That's not the kind of language that we asked for on the stream. So I am very sorry of this slander from my guests today.
But also, good luck for your leaving on Friday as well.
Yeah, and good luck to yours as well, Andrew. So yeah, thank you for coming on, Reece. Go and check out Reece's socials. I've put your link in the description as always. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you're new. I will be next live now on Saturday. I've got an Aston Villa fan. And I'll be doing an Aston Villa preview. So go and check that out. Enjoy the game.
Laughing at Ravi. That's true. Vincent, I don't know. Maybe on Sunday. We'll see. Maybe on Sunday, because I'm not. It might actually. It will most likely be Sunday, because I'm not available on Saturday. I'm out.
Yeah, thank you very, very much. Rabbi, you're absolutely spot on. I will be having words with him backstage of the rules about. But thank you all very, very much. Take care. Enjoy the game. Bye bye.
Bye, folks.